And we are back with another episode of How About Them Celtics Talking C's with Bobby Koritsky of SI Media Group. Bobby, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic, guys. Just enjoying 2 days where the workload gets a little bit lighter with the Celtics on the West Coast. And very excited, though. We will talk about these games in Los Angeles coming up, including the Christmas showdown against LeBron and company.
Yes, sir. Holiday season, Celtics on the West Coast in California for the holidays. Before we get to Clippers and the Christmas Day Lakers, let's backtrack a little and talk about the Kings. Celtics walked into Sacramento on the second night of back-to-back after getting stomped by, or not stomped, but disappointingly beaten by the Warriors in overtime. They were none too pleased with the loss. Scal was saying on the broadcast how they went on the bus ride and it was quiet and no one was very happy. And they responded without Jason Tatum, without Al Horford, and they killed the Kings. They said, you know what, Kings, you might have come out hot in the first quarter. De'Aaron Fox might have been on fire, but we're better and we're just going to stomp them. Got the win. Bobby, what are your biggest takeaways from that one?
Well, so I think that shows the resolve of this team. And Tatum's talked about it before, and Jalen has too. They don't want to let one bad loss snowball. And in this case, having the back-to-back, I wasn't sure. Not that I was making any declarations or leaning one way or the other. I was just curious to see how they responded to having to play the next night. And it turned out to be a positive that they had to take the court. One of the most impressive facets of that win is that Kings high octane offense. The Celtics outscored them in transition 30-6, which speaks to how they did offensively and defensively in that regard against one of the most difficult fast break offenses to slow down. And also, I know the first quarter was this really entertaining slugfest where they were trading threes, but in the middle two frames, Boston held Sacramento to 6 made shots from beyond the arc total. So that, again, that defense laying the foundation for their success was on display as they got back to playing Celtics basketball.
Yeah, Jag and I texted about the first quarter as it was happening, and I was obviously unhappy because I was like, look at this. They didn't get a stop in the fourth quarter the night before. Now they can't get a stop against the Kings. But a lot of those shots they did make were tough, like Jack told me when I was all upset, and he calmed me down. As the game went on, the Celtics continued to play a calm game. They continued to execute on offense. Obviously, they hung 144 on the Kings, but the ball movement was really good. Like, there's a reason why they had 5 different guys have 20 points, 6 guys in double figures with Hauser too. They have been playing really well as a team. It's a reason why both Pritchard and Hauser have stepped up big time this season as a whole, but particularly over these last 10 games. They've just proven that they are a worthy shot taker in plenty of situations. And a lot of the guys on this team definitely feel that way about themselves. That's why you see somebody like Derrick White have such big games because they all believe in each other. Derrick White being able to pop off for 28 points on back-to-back nights is special when he's somebody on the season that's averaging 15 because he has to take a lesser role when Tatum and Brown are healthy and Porzingis because they are the all-star high-level players. And I know we'll talk about Derrick White as an all-star a little later. But just the buy-in from everybody is really something great to see overall.
That's just what I was going to say. I wrote about it after the Kings game. Usually when Jason Tatum's out or big players are out, you see certain guys try to do too much. Say, best player's out, this guy's out, let me step up, I'll do a little bit more. That's not what you saw in the Kings game. Everyone did what they had normally been doing. I think Jaylen Brown had 7 assists. Derrick White played well-rounded game. He ended up, I don't know if he led the team in scoring, but he was up there.
Him and Jalen tied 28 apiece.
Yeah. They tied to lead the team in scoring, but all the shots he got were in the flow of the offense. Same goes for Jalen. He was aggressive while also making the right play, which he's been doing a great job at this season. Kristaps had 24, Holiday had 21, Pritchard had 25. Different Celtics had 20 points in that game. They finished with 35 assists on 31 made baskets. They were playing basketball the right way. They didn't change the way they were playing just because some people were out. They didn't change the way they were playing because the Kings got off to a hot start. They committed to the way that they've been playing basketball. Sam, you said it on the last Talking C's. It's like blackjack. If you commit to your strategy and keep going, you'll usually turn up good in the long run. Except in basketball, there's not really unless you're the Pistons. Well, that's different. That's like playing blackjack the wrong way and committing to playing it the wrong way and
No, that's what I
expecting it
mean.
to
Like
be
you commit to your
successful.
strategy, it has to work out. But
they're
maybe
not
for the
even
Pistons.
they're not even going over 21. They're just not remotely close to it.
I hope they keep losing because Celtics have them next week, and if they are still on the streak when they come to town, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it. I know that. I'm sure you guys will get in on it too.
I mean, at this point, make history. Don't come this far just to go this far.
That's true. Sit everybody.
I mean, Detroit's hitting on every 17 they see at this point. It's bad. It's getting rough out here. But the Celtics played team basketball against the Kings. It worked out. And I think I said this after the Cavs Magic mini series, both of them. The Celtics have been doing a great job of committing to how they're playing on offense, but being willing to change up how they're playing defense. And I think that's the important part, because I think that's how you have to play as a team. Because offensively, it's just a matter of finding what works consistently in terms of getting open shots. The shots may not always fall, but then you can fix that by adjusting defense according to what the other team is doing. You look at the Cavs series, and they picked up screens higher, and they caught Strus and Mitchell off guard. You look at the Magic series, they played more physical, they clogged the lane, they switched it up to guard those guys, and they bullied some of the Magic players out of the paint where they're more comfortable. You look at even the Warriors game, it obviously didn't work out in their favor, but they did adjust later in the game to try to deny Curry and Klay Thompson the ball. They couldn't do it consistently, and that was the problem, but they did try to switch it up. And then the Kings game, like, Fox took, I think, 4 shots in the second half. Like they saw him get hot, and then they did whatever they could to shut down the offense and live with guys that they wanted to beat them, and it worked. Like, I think that commitment on offense versus adjustments on defense is what's important. And as we talk about the Clippers game next up here, I think that's all the more important with the team that's maybe one of the hottest teams in the league. They just lost to the Thunder, but Kawhi wasn't there. But when they've been healthy, prior to this Thunder loss last night as we're recording this, they had won 9 in a row. Like, this team is really starting to figure it out. As much as we can mock James Harden, like, this team probably has as much talent as most contending teams in the league, with Kawhi playing in an all-time high, Paul George cooking, James Harden buying into a playmaking role. Like, this is going to be a tough team to slow down. But I think the Celtics showed what they need to do in the Kings game as like a sort of preview for the Clippers game.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm hoping carries over is that Kristaps Porzingis was dominant in the third quarter. And what they were doing was his screens were forcing switches. And then you get him in the mid post on namely Kevin Huerter. And even with Sabonis in this case coming over to constantly double, he's 7'3". It's not going to affect his shot. 2 of them, 3 of them, they're all, munchkins in his eyes. And so he's just shooting them over them, and he's got tremendous touch. And so I think that there's a difference between the Celtics do consistently create quality shots for the most part, but you can still scale up. So even if it doesn't mean that the process was poor, that against Sacramento, we saw them play a lot of inside out basketball, and the combination of that and operating up tempo is how you generate a higher quality of in rhythm shot and keep players involved. And that's more conducive to success from beyond the arc, which we know that's a high volume of where their shots come from. So I'm hoping that process in particular, that inside out basketball combined with playing up tempo and pushing the pace, is what we see against the Clippers.
Yeah, the inside out stuff seems to be the real way the NBA is trending now. Whether it's driving kick or you really have a dominant big guy like Jokic or Embiid, it's what teams want to do. You want to draw on the defense and you get those clean looks from 3. I got a kick out of the Kevin Huerter trying to cover Porzingis on the switch. It's like he's the Drake meme where Drake's trying to defend, I think it's KD, and he's just helpless. That's pretty much what it was. There was a Kristaps shot in the Kings game where it was like a Kobe shot, and there were like literally 3 guys like all like closing in from every angle, and he sank it, just for the spoiler. But yeah, with the Clippers, I think the Celtics are going to have an interesting task on their hands because they do have a bunch of high-level guys. James Harden, Kawhi, Paul George, all of them. Like, they can play for real. Kawhi has been on a heater from everything I've seen. He's been playing really well. And like you mentioned, Jack, he wasn't there for the loss to the Thunder. But nonetheless, James Harden has stepped it up after a very slow start to his Clippers tenure. We all saw the picture of him yelling into the camera after an and 1-3 against the Pacers. The Celtics have the defensive tools to hang with this team. We don't know as of Friday at 2:30 if Tatum's going to play tomorrow with the rolled ankle he suffered against the Warriors, or even Porzingis, that matter, who did roll his ankle but then turned up to another level against the Kings. But if they have at least everybody not named Porzingis healthy, they still should have the defensive tools to switch with Derrick White, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, all of those guys on the perimeter, and then they'll have one big guy to hang down low with Zubac. They should be okay, but it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the handful of stars rather than just one guy like De'Aaron Fox or mainly one guy like Steph Curry, even though Clay was hot too.
Yeah. I mean, over the last 10 games, the Clippers are first in offensive rating at 125.2, but down at 15th in defensive rating at 116.3. And I think the big thing you just pointed out is the way the Celtics win this game. Zubac is going to be in drop. Porzingis is just going to shoot like all the threes in the world.
Right.
And even past that, if Zubac plays in drop, which he's going to, because if he doesn't, he's cooked. He's going to play in drop. Celtics are going to kick it to Porzingis. And then if they rotate, Porzingis is just capable of making that extra pass. And so I think that's how you take down this Clippers team. I don't want to say difficult part, but the intriguing part comes when and if Ty Lue decides to run a small ball lineup with no center or PJ Tucker at the center, who's been something this
Excellent.
season. He's putting
not
up
really long for LA either, it seems like.
Yeah, he's putting up Tony Snell numbers. What a beast. Shout out Maine Celtics legend Tony Snell. But the issue's not the right word, but the intriguing part of Joe Mazzulla's game plan is going to come when inevitably Ty Lue goes to a small ball lineup that is switch heavy. But at that point, I think the Celtics will just find the weakest player on the floor defensively and attack them, because that's what they've done all season. And for what it's worth, since I mentioned Joe Mazzulla, Mike Brown giving him the credit he deserved after that Kings game, basically saying, yeah, he coached circles around me. He kicked my bleep, for lack of a better term. Joe Mazzulla has been great this season. And then looking past the Clippers game, I know it's the biggest game of the year for Sam probably so far.
Yeah, it is.
Lakers on Christmas. This is a game you really want to win. Bobby, what are going to be the biggest keys in this one? Because for all the Lakers aren't a great offensive half-court team, which is still true, Anthony Davis is playing great basketball this season. LeBron James is playing great basketball this season. Like, they are going to be a tough team, if nothing else, but the fact that they're going to want to win this game.
I'm with Sam. This is the one that I have circled on my regular season calendar that I'm most excited for. It's one of the marquee rivalries in sports. It's the most significant date on the NBA's regular season calendar. So I'm more excited for this matchup in particular. LeBron against the Celtics. He always cranks it up. We saw how much that loss at TD Garden last year, how that felt like just a gut punch to him. And so
how'd
there's a combination of what's up?
How'd you know?
There's the combination of that and this game being on Christmas and what that means for superstars in particular. And one of the areas that I'm most excited to see is how the Celtics combat the physicality of the Lakers. They have size across the board. And when they went on that run to win the in-season tournament, I know that they haven't had the best of health since then, and they floundered a little bit. But when they were winning that in-season tournament, it was led by their defense and just digging in and not giving players separation and just wearing them down at the other end. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Celtics hold up against that challenge.
What you got? There it is.
Well done. I saw the smile on Jack's face and I knew something
Not
was
a
coming.
tech.
Not a tech.
Tatum waves at the ref. Ejected. LeBron.
He wouldn't come to the podium after the game. He did his post-game speaking from his locker. He refused.
I detest the Lakers. I detest LeBron. I detest Anthony Davis and his dad. I can give you a reason probably for just about everybody. I should be like, I hate that guy. But LeBron, he does stuff like this. He's the biggest like crybaby guy ever. He's always reading the book. He's one page in. Anthony Davis and his dad had a tantrum when he might get traded to the Celtics back in 2019. This is good. See, this was at least iconic. Creative. Also, rip to Eric Lewis, one of the all-time great referees. But
Celtics legend Eric Lewis.
That's right. But Anthony Davis's dad, like throwing the Celtics under the bus for the Isaiah Thomas thing, will not be forgotten. And of course, the purple and gold out there in LA, they got some of the worst fans ever too. So this is a big one for me. But to Bobby's point, the Lakers did win the in-season tournament behind great defense, behind great play from Anthony Davis. It's interesting to me how the Celtics are going to combat Davis's paint presence. Of course, you want to stretch the floor as much as you can, and you do have the pieces to do it. But the Celtics have also been very good inside. Jason Tatum's field goal percentage as a whole has been at an all-time high this year, career high, and he can't make any threes. Like a tear sheds from my eye every time I see him try and shoot a three. But that means he's finishing at the rim. Kristaps Porzingis, like Bobby said, has incredible touch inside. These guys are all capable of making the Lakers pay inside. I'm curious to see how crazy all of the Celtics fans are going to be driven by the amount of threes they're probably going to have to take.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, the Lakers defense last 10 games, 5th, 113.0 defensive rating. Lakers offense last 10 games, 25th. They're not a good offensive team, plain and simple. They get out in transition. The reason they were able to bully the Pacers in the in-season tournament finals is because they literally scored like a million points in the paint, and the Pacers had no answer. Because, spoiler alert, the Pacers are a terrible defensive team. Celtics aren't that. If, and knock on wood, Porzingis is healthy, they have one of the better paint protectors in the league this season, I would argue, especially considering the tools he has around him to work with. It's really just going to be about slowing down LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who, like I mentioned, are on heaters this season. They're playing really well. Anthony Davis, over his last 10, is averaging 29 on 54, 42 splits and 13 rebounds a night. LeBron is averaging 25, 8, and 9.5. Like, Reeves is averaging 19 on 50, 40, 94 shooting. Like, they are playing well. Their stars are efficient on offense, but past Reeves, you just don't have a lot of floor spacing. You don't have a lot of shooting. You don't have a lot of guys who can help space the floor for those guys. And that's where the Celtics are going to have to attack them, right? Like, look at the Cavs game. The second game, they literally just left Isaac Okoro in the corner, said, we're going to guard Drew Donovan Mitchell. Good luck. And the Cavs couldn't do anything. That's how they're going to attack the Lakers. I guarantee you they put Drew Holiday on Cam Reddish or pick your poison, D'Angelo Russell, and just say, yeah, go nuts. Have a good time. We're going to send help in the lane. We're going to make it, annoying for Davis when he posts up. We're not going to let Austin Reeves get into the mid-range. We're going to survive with these little floaters you guys are going to throw up and Cam Reddish taking a million threes. And that's how they're going to defend the Lakers. And whether or not it works is going to depend on whether or not Cam Reddish has a career night against the Celtics, which maybe you had your bets on yes. But,
yeah, I was going to say, let's play the which Lakers guy is going to make 5 threes.
Yeah, but
do we know when Gabe Vincent is returning? I mean, that's going to be it's at least supposed to be a significant piece for them and give them a dynamic that outside of Austin Reeves, they don't really have, that someone who can create the shot off the dribble and play the pick and roll so well as the ball handler, as a guard. And he's better in that capacity than Austin Reeves. So to me, if they have Gabe Vincent back, and he might not have his wind all the way under him, but if he's back and shooting the ball well, it just changes the geometry of the Lakers offense.
It
nice
says,
PTSD for us too.
Darvin Ham's latest update. I think Gabe has come a long way. He's done everything we've asked him to do, checked every box at this point. Everything's going according to plan. Just a few more conditioning boxes we need to check and see how he responds. Then we'll make the call to make him active. Basically saying it looks like he'll be back soon enough. That
He's
said,
playing.
I don't know if he'll play against Celtics, but
it might be
he played last night. He played last night. He played against the Bulls on the 20th, 2 nights ago.
So
he did play. Yes.
Big impact in that one.
I will say,
the Lakers.
For what it's worth, he is currently shooting 2 of 17 from 3 this season.
Vincent.
He's saving them all for the Celtics.
Well, but
I'm
keep in mind,
now.
he played 4 games. He had the ankle injury, and then he just came back after a long absence.
Yes. All I'm saying is
what at least last year in Miami, what the reputation was.
And he's definitely going to bring it against the Celtics. All I'm saying is 11% looks very funny on Basketball Reference. But listen, I think the Lakers are a good team. I think they're a playoff team. If the Celtics play the right brand of basketball, and they come to play, again, both of those are question marks. I'm not saying they're fully going to happen. They're better. the Celtics are fully capable of handling most teams in the league. I would say there's maybe 4 teams that will give them serious trouble on a night-to-night basis, and it's the Bucks, Nuggets, Sixers, and Timberwolves. Outside of that, you should, and maybe the Thunder, but you should be able to be like, all right, we're more talented than you. But
Well,
There's
also,
still the LeBron challenge. You're
Yeah.
on the road on Christmas for this game. Both games last year went to overtime. And so this is, I think you could put, just because of LeBron even, that playing him and his teams goes into the same category as facing the Warriors or the Miami Heat, where it's another one of those mental challenges where the Celtics have to prove themselves in a different way, even if they are the more talented team.
yeah, one good thing about this is it is Christmas, so the Celtics should care. And I say this seriously. In games that the Celtics have cared, they have been unstoppable. Those 2 games against Orlando, they clearly had a chip on their shoulder, and they played like it. They got beat by the Warriors and embarrassed that they lost that game. They come out and stomp the Kings the next day. If anything, they should be up for this game more than any other. I mean, even the Milwaukee game. Go back to that. They played serious for 3.5 quarters, and it was a blowout. They almost lost, but they didn't. If they play like that against the Lakers, it should be.
All right,
He had enough.
Yeah,
He had enough of my rambling.
he's out. He couldn't handle it.
I'm leaving this in because it's funny. So
Welcome back, good friend of the program, Jack Simone.
Yeah.
house has like these little buttons here, and I went to grab it, but I missed, and so I like hit it, and it hit the back button, and so I left the room. But I'm here. Don't worry. I'm still talking to you.
Wow, he didn't like. I didn't even say anything bad.
I just leave. If I left whenever I got mad at something you said, there wouldn't be a show.
There was one time you did. It was like a 5-minute pause.
He told me about
like,
that.
Okay, I'm gonna
in the playoffs last year, right?
Yeah, like we were both definitely mad that they lost, but I was like, my level of mad, and I just would not let him like say anything positive about the team.
Yeah, he said, if you're not going to let me talk, I'm out.
It's not even that you wouldn't let me say anything positive. I was just in a room with other people, so I couldn't yell. And so nothing I heard could be said. Nothing I said could be heard over you. So I was like, dude, if you're not going to let me talk, I'm going to leave. And you were like, well, then talk then. And I just left. And I was like, I'm done. I quit. No,
that's
but I'm
a
back.
Top 5 moment on the pod.
I'm back. I had to cut it out because it wasn't like a quick leave, come back. It was like 10
No,
minutes.
it was like a contest.
Oh my god.
Oh,
anyways,
sorry, you have to bleep that.
Sam, though, I'm so glad that you brought up how they play against the Bucks specifically, because that's an example of when the Celtics are the hunter. And it's just so much easier to be aggressive and I think play better when that's your mindset. So like the Patriots teams in the early 2000s, they used to lie to themselves to get themselves in that mindset. The Celtics, even if they don't believe it or they can't stop thinking about how they're more talented than their opposition, I think it's what they need to consistently adopt. However they can, and if it requires trickery, then so be it, to consistently be the hunter and not act like you're trying to fend some team off.
Yeah, I think they really do thrive when they're like, we have something to prove. And I love it because I think in years past, we haven't necessarily seen that. We have seen them play up to competition in the past or down to it. But it feels like last year in particular, they kind of felt like they were better than everybody. And on any given night, like they could lose to Milwaukee or the Lakers you saw them go down 0-3 to Miami and then they paid for it. But they just didn't play for real at times. Like the Atlanta series. They weren't serious. Like we were all like, yeah, they're going to whomp Atlanta. It took them 6 games. They almost lost to Philly. We're all like, they should beat Philly every time because that's how it goes. They almost lose. Miami, they go down 0-3. This year, it does feel different in that sense. Like you got some new guys. Like Holiday has a chip on his shoulder, even though he won't say it, because Milwaukee ditched him for Lillard. Kristaps has never been in a winning situation, and he couldn't be happier. Tatum and Brown have been ridiculed for their inability to show up in a pair of big series over the last couple seasons. Like they've all had enough. I don't know why Derrick White's turned up, but he's done that too. Like we're all like, is he an all-star now?
Yes. Segue. Thank you, Sam. I wrote about it today for Celtics blog. I get passionate when I talk about Derrick White. Derrick White might be my favorite thing in basketball. I said this in our video. I said people growing up wanting to get to the NBA should want to be like Derrick White. You shouldn't want to be Jason Tatum. You shouldn't want to be, all these
Certainly
stars,
should
because
not.
the likelihood of you being Tatum or Curry or Embiid or Jokic is like 2%. If you're a top prospect in your class, sure. If you are a guy looking to make it, looking to separate yourself, play defense, shoot well from threes, have a good mindset. And like all this other stuff that Derrick White does, driving to the hoop, finishing in the lane, morphing his body at the rim, blocking shots, like that's great. He is the perfect NBA player. And not only that, as far as his all-star case, he is the most impactful player on the best team in the NBA. He impacts winning more than Tatum this season, more than Brown this season, more than Porzingis this season, more than Holiday this season. By the numbers, he has the best value over replacement player on the Celtics. He has the most win shares on the Celtics. He has the best plus minus on the Celtics. Every stat tells you what the eye test tells you. Impact on winning, Derrick White is at the top. If the best player on the best team isn't in the All-Star game, what are we doing? And realistically, I know All-Star game is a stat contest, right? That's what it is, effectively at the end of the day.
It's a popularity contest. It's
For the
name
most part.
recognition.
However, when coaches are voting for the bench, if there's anybody that should respect what Derrick White does, it's them, because they have to play him every night. I don't think it's likely, but Derrick White deserves to be an all-star this season. I just wrote about it for Celtics blog. If you want to read it, I will die on this hill. He should
Will
be
you
an
buy
all-star.
an all-star jersey if he makes it?
If Derrick White makes the All-Star game, yes, absolutely. And not only that, I'll buy a real one. I won't buy the one from DH Gate from China. I'll buy a real All-Star Derrick White jersey if he makes it. He deserves to be an All-Star. Everything.
Porzingis, Pete Rogers jersey's coming with the uniform in front.
Love that.
That'll be fire. Yeah. So Jack is the president of the Derrick White fan club, to the point that he might take umbrage with the following statement here, which is, I believe Derrick White has become the best role player in the NBA. And I was talking with an NBA scout recently who said that he thinks the two best role players are Aaron Gordon and Derrick White. And I told him I think that Derrick White has surpassed Aaron Gordon in that regard, especially when you consider the impact of Jokic's facilitating as one of the best passers in the game. And so I wrote the other day as well for Inside the Celtics, si.com/NBA/Celtics, shameless plug, about Derrick White's all-star candidacy. And the conclusion is the same as Jack's, that he's playing all-star caliber basketball. I don't think he'll get voted in. I think being a replacement player is a more likely outcome. But there are 4 players in the NBA right now who are in the 94th percentile or higher, if you'll allow me to nerd out, in estimated offensive and defensive impact. And Derrick White is one of them, along with Joel Embiid, Giannis, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm not saying all 4 of them are on the same tier of overall player, but I do think that all 4 belong in the All-Star game, even though, to reiterate that conclusion, Sam, I ultimately think he won't get named to the initial roster, at least.
No, I mean, you're going to see the fan vote, and it's going to be like, we'll just say for the sake of it, Zach LaVine, maybe, that doesn't deserve to be there. He's always on the ballot because he can do super cool dunks. People know his name. Trae Young is another one that's actually more realistic. Like, a lot of people will vote for Trae Young because they know him. They know him as the next Steph Curry, regardless if he is or not. He doesn't really shoot that high of an efficiency or percentage from 3, at least for his career. But I will say this about Derrick White in the role player conversation. I almost think Derrick White is a slight step above the average role player, or not even the average role player, the role player category. Because I do think there are moments where Derrick White can spearhead an offense and be an initiator and create shots. I think we've seen it a few times. We see him do a great job at getting downhill to throw up his floaters that almost always find the bottom of the net. And it gives me confidence in his ability to shapeshift and be the guy, for example, in a game in Sacramento when Jason Tatum's out. That's awesome. Like, I don't know. Of course, it's the NBA. Of course, all of these guys grow up their whole life being the best player in every game they play.
Not Derrick White.
It feels like Derrick White just has that difference about him. He's not the average role player. He's not Aaron Gordon.
I think Derrick White has transcended the label of role player because of what he can do when other players are out. Like, I don't think Aaron Gordon could drop 30 and 10 when Jokic is out.
Just keep in mind that Aaron Gordon was asked to be the number one in Orlando.
Yes.
Not a role that Derrick White's had. And I'm
No.
not saying, they were a playoff team with him taking on a job offensively that he's not really that well suited for.
Yes. And I agree that Aaron Gordon is one of the best role players. I think everything he does on the court impacts winning at a very high level. And I think he's perfect for that Nuggets team. But I think the difference is, and I truly believe this, I think Derrick White could be the number 2 option on a title team. I genuinely believe that. Like, I think everything he brings to the table, you look at the defense, you look at his ability to score, play off the ball, but also take guys on the ball and create his own shots, which he's been doing more this year. He's averaging career highs in points, rebounds, assists, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, win share, like everything is career highs in a year where everyone on the Celtics was expected to take a step back because they added 2 all-stars. You look at his all-star case, just to break it down a little bit here. I broke it down in the article for Celtics blog. I think Dame, Halliburton, Maxey, and Brunson are locks for the guard position, right? I think they'll get in based on what they've done with their teams. I think Tatum, Giannis, and Embiid will probably end up being the starters. That leaves for 3 more secured front court spots: Brown, Porzingis, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Paolo, Franz Wagner, Scottie Siakam, Bridges. I think of those, you'll probably see Brown get in, one of the Heat guys get in, and Paolo get in, which leaves Derrick White competing for 2 wildcard spots with Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, DeMar DeRozan, and then the rest of those forwards I just named. Of those, I think Donovan Mitchell probably gets in because the Cavs are turning it around, and he is, I mean, by name alone, going to get it. Past that, I think Derrick White impacts winning more than anybody else on that list by a mile. I think he impacts winning more than Donovan Mitchell this season. And I know it's not the same role. And I mean, using Trae Young as the example, Bobby and I were talking about this off air before we hit the record button. I think if you put Derrick White on the Hawks instead of Trae Young, they win more games. I think they're a better basketball team with Derrick White over Trae Young. I think Derrick White's a better basketball player than Trae Young this season. I think he's a better obviously you could say recency bias. I would like to think I don't have that much recency bias. I've been on the train for a while here. Come on. But everything he does on the court, you look at the defense, you look at the offense, you look at the efficiency shooting, and the efficiency. All I'm going to say is the efficiency has stood up when star players are out. When he's stepped up into a larger role and he's had to take more shots, it's not like his efficiency is down or he turns the ball over more. Like he is steady regardless of the role he's in. I truly believe he deserves to be on the first all-star returns that come out. I think he impacts winning more than most of the guys on that list that I mentioned, and that should be what it's about.
He does. Now, it is, I can't stress enough, it's a different beast when you're the number 1 option. And even if you're Donovan Mitchell, for instance, when you have Darius Garland, it's still just different when you are the primary focus of what the defense is trying to combat and quiet every night throughout the course of the game when you're on the floor, that you're the guy. But yeah, I think it's fair if you want to go beyond the general categories of star, role player, on down the line, that you could say there's an in-between that more accurately slots Derrick White. That's totally fair. But again, if you're just using those labels, then I think Derrick White has established himself as the best role player in basketball today. And I don't think that's a bias or anything. I think we're trotted out the numbers, including career highs for him in pretty much every major statistical category, how well he's shooting the ball, and his ability to fit in alongside any type of environment. It doesn't matter the system, who the stars are on that team. Derrick White can seamlessly blend in and elevate that team to the point where you talk about, hey, could he go as high as the number 2 on a title team? And I think there are certain examples where the answer is yes, especially if it's alongside a big man like in Embiid or a Jokic. I think Giannis too. And we're going to find out, because right now he's on a team that is over the second apron and is widely considered to have the best top 6 in basketball. And so we're going to see if he can help this group capture banner 18 when they're pot committed.
Mm-hmm. They'd better do it.
Listen, we don't have to do this activity now, but I guarantee, I think it would be fun to go down the line of is Derrick White better than this player? And you just have me answer, because I would give you some obscenities.
I think we should absolutely do this. Shout out to JJ Redick for moving Derrick White even further up within his top 50 now.
Yes.
And I mean, maybe we'll have him on for this activity too. I just think there's a huge difference, because if the question is, would you rather have, that list to me is longer even than, do you think Derrick White's better than? Unless you're Jack Simone, perhaps. Maybe they're of equal length.
Hey, I would give you some obscene answers.
That's why we have to do this at some point.
I would be realistic, but we can definitely do that. Maybe not today, because we're running a little long anyway. So we'll get y'all out of here in the meantime. But anyways, Bobby, anything else you want to talk about?
I think we hit on it all. There was one point that I left on the table there against the Clippers, and that is that, we talked even a little bit about when they played the Cavs recently. And one of the things that I wrote about and was a big takeaway is how they defended Cleveland and Porzingis's willingness. It wasn't the first time, but just a reminder that he doesn't have to play drop coverage, and you can put him at different levels against the screen. Cleveland, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Mitchell and Garland are, generally speaking, more likely to come off a pick and pull from three than Kawhi and Paul George, who love the mid-range. So that allows Porzingis to not even have to go all the way up to touch. He can have a little bit of an in-between there and find that middle ground defending the pick and roll, compared to being all the way at the rim versus up at the arc. And it's going to be really interesting, because I think that is going to help him out. He said after that Cleveland series that he's more comfortable playing up and further away from the basket, and it helps him to just get his hands on guys, and it feels more natural to him than being all the way back at the basket waiting for the action to come to him. So I think you're going to see a lot of that against the Clippers.
Definitely. Sam, any final points before we get out of here?
Win them all. Win all the games. By the time you hear us again, they had better be riding into the Pistons game with a 3-game win streak. Yeah.
How will you react if they sweep the rest of this trip and then lose to the Pistons?
So it's a good question.
Sam's Pistons, by the way, Bobby. I don't know if you knew that. Sam had the Pistons has the 9
support
seed.
The Pistons.
Like
I wouldn't call myself a fan.
They're your Pistons.
They're my team that I'm like, the league's better when they're good. So I want to see them succeed.
Scorching hot take. They need the Detroit market.
It's not about the market. It's just like, I think their franchise.
It's a legendary franchise for sure. But I don't know if anyone else is trotting out that take.
No, definitely not. They're not. But back to your question. So the Lakers game means a lot to me. I think I would sacrifice the Pistons game in exchange to beat the Lakers. But I would like to have both.
Well, you want 82-0.
Well, it's off the table. So at this point, I'm looking for 76-6.
All right. Well, we'll leave y'all on that. Contemplate that request from Sam. You knew it was happening before the start of the season. Thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure to follow Bobby's work at SI Celtics, SI Media Group, Bobby Kravitsky. Subscribe to How About Them Celtics, and I'll let Sam take it out.
Yes, big thanks to Bobby for joining us again for Talking C's. Make sure you check him out. Inside the Celtics for SI Media, Bobby is on the beat with Jack. They're both at the games all the time, asking questions, observing from the 9th floor, and taking notes. So make sure you follow him on Twitter too, at Bobby Kravitsky. He's fantastic. He's got all the updates for you there. As for Jack and I, if you like the videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're putting up Talking C's episodes, full-length pods, game recaps, trade rumor breakdowns, film breakdowns, and we're live before every game, a half hour before. You can hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of it. You can also leave a like or a comment. You can find us on audio platforms for the audio versions of full-length pods and game recaps, Spotify, Apple. Follow us there. Leave a 5-star review. If you want to reach out to us, the email is hbtcpod@gmail.com. We read your emails on the full-length pods. It's a good time. We love to hear from you. You can find us on socials at How About Them C's, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Facebook is just the name of the podcast. Our live streams are there, as well as YouTube. You can follow Jack on Twitter at JackSimoneNBA. You can follow me at Sam LaFrance NBA. That's it for us.
Tackle. Come on. Tackle. Taco's having some fun here.
That is bogus! These guys are ridiculous!